Today I'm here to do a video about my most disappointing books that I read in 2016. I did one of these last year for 2015, which I will leave linked down below. That was one of the most popular videos of mine during that time. So I guess that you guys just like hearing about books that I don't like. So I decided to make one again. These are not necessarily books that I didn't like. They're just books that I found disappointing for one reason or another. Some of them I didn't like, but some of them were books that I still liked, but they just weren't as good as I was expecting them to be. Here we go. The first book on that list is Into the Dim by Janet B. Taylor. I actually don't have a physical copy of this book because I had gotten an ARC of it and I got rid of it because I really did not like it. So this is one of the ones that I didn't like. It was pitched as a YA version of Outlander, but it felt kind of like a direct ripoff of Outlander. It took place in Scotland, and a lot of the devices in it that moved the plot along just seemed like way too convenient, and the way that things were explained it just wasn't for me. Like, there are definitely people out there that might enjoy it, but I just really did not like it at all. Next on my list is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. While I did enjoy this book, I'm not saying that I did not like it. I thought that it was good, and I thought that it was like a solid first novel. It was not Six of Crows or Crooked Kingdom, so I just was expecting a lot more out of it. I felt like the story was a lot slower. There's so much hype surrounding it that also could have contributed to me not liking it as much as other people do. I still do want to read books 2 and 3 in the series. I'm not oh, I'm giving up on this. So I'm still interested in it. It just really wasn't what I was expecting. Next on my list is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This is another one where I really, really loved Passenger, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I bet everything that I read by Alexandra Bracken will be amazing. And while I didn't dislike this, it just wasn't as good as I was expecting. And I think that part of that also is that in recent years, I've kind of gotten less interested in dystopian novels. I think that if I would have read this 5 years ago, I would have thought this was incredible, but the whole dystopian thing was just so overdone that I feel like it's really hard to kind of surprise your reader and just, I don't know, for me to keep me interested in it since I've read so many dystopian novels at this point. Next on my list is Summer of Supernovas by Darcy Woods. This is another one that I don't have a physical copy of, but I had read an ARC version, and while there were elements of it that I did enjoy, for instance, I liked that the main character wore all retro clothing and stuff, and I thought that her love interest was cute, but what I really didn't like is that this girl just based all of her choices in life off of astrology. So even if something was very clearly in front of her, you obviously like this guy more than you like this guy, she didn't care, and she just chose what she felt like her sign, what would be best for her sign. And it just seemed silly to me. I couldn't relate to it, which doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't like it, but in this instance, I just didn't do anything for me. I think that if this author were to write another book with a different premise, there's a great chance that I would enjoy it more, because I did like the writing. I just didn't like this story. Then on my list, I have Captive Prince by C.S. Pacat. People were obsessed with this, on Tumblr and on Twitter and things. I just heard people talking about this so much, and there was a lot of rape and slavery, and it made me feel gross. I didn't like it. I understand that they're trying to make it seem like there's more to this other character, but he's horrible in this book. So I don't know. I'm unconvinced of whether I want to continue with the series or not, just because I was so turned off by the first book. It wasn't horrible, and they do say they're not condoning rape in any way. They do, the author does make a point that it's a terrible place to live in. That's not something that should be the norm, but there just was a lot of it. Next on my list is When We Collided by Emery Lord. I really, really liked Emery Lord's Open Road Summer, and I just didn't feel the same way after reading When We Collided. I think that there was a lot of hype surrounding this book, and again, I really love Emery Lord's writing, so the writing style really worked for me, but I just didn't really love this story. I just really liked her other book more, and I'm still planning on reading everything that Emery Lord puts out. Again, this is just another instance of me not enjoying the story. But I liked elements of it, and I did really like Jonah, and I really liked the family aspect of it. I just didn't like Jonah and Vivi together. Next on my list is Proof of Forever by Lexa Hillier. This is a book that I actually unhauled because I disliked it that much. It was pitched as this awesome novel of like 4 friends who get transported back to camp for this one summer that they all shared together, and then they need to like make sure that everything kind of goes the same so they can end up in this photo booth and get back to their current time. And I really went into this book with high expectations because I was so excited for that friendship element, and it really was 100% lacking in this book. I in no way got any feeling that these 4 girls were like friendly at all until the end, when they kind of tried to make, like, she kind of tried to make it seem like they've been great friends this whole time, and I was just like, all that they care about is like hooking up with other boys. So I'm not seeing, like, you're telling me that they're really good friends, but if you didn't tell me that, I would think they could be complete strangers. So that was just disappointing to me. Next on my list is The Merciless, and I actually unhauled this one as well. It's by Danielle Vega, and it was a horror novel. I read it around Halloween because I really wanted to read some like spooky stories. But there was a lot of torture and victim blaming. I can handle gore and I can handle like all of that kind of stuff, but I just like really didn't like this one. It seemed ridiculous, and the main characters were terrible. The whole time that I was reading it, I was just like, where are your parents? Like, how is this happening even? It just seemed so incredibly unrealistic, and I really just didn't like it, which is a shame because it has a beautiful cover. And then finally on my list is Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare. Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. This one is one that I did not dislike. I actually did like this book, but I was just disappointed by it because, first of all, I didn't know that I needed to read it before Lady Midnight. So that in itself was disappointing because I thought that I was ready to read it, and then I had to read this. And I know I've complained about that in the past, but that was the first thing against this. Then, second of all, there were some novellas in here, like there were some short stories in here that I just really like didn't enjoy at all. There were some that I loved, like some of them were so good, and they really like exceeded my expectations. But overall, I did feel like there was a lot in here that just wasn't necessary. And with the exception of like 2 of the short stories, I don't think that this is something that needs to be read before Lady Midnight. Like maybe if you just want to read those 2 stories, then you'll have like a clear picture of what you need to know. But it just seemed like superfluous in my opinion. It was okay. It was nice to be back in the Shadowhunter world. It was fun to see the character that it focused on, which I don't want to say in case you haven't read the rest of The Mortal Instruments, but it really just seemed like kind of unnecessary to me. So those are all of my most disappointing books of the year. Let me know if you have read any of them, if you have any differing opinions. Feel free to let me know in a nice way in the comments, and I'm happy to talk about it more because, again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and these are just my opinions. So that's all that I have for this video, and I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!